And they have all those lanes down Union Farming, by like 7,200 south. And you have to go this way, and the one I was in, so I had taken the exit off of 21st, or off of I-80 to go head south, 37. And then there's six splits, and if you take left, you go to 7,200 south exit, and if you go right, it's like all this construction, the lines aren't right. Wow. I was in and I don't know, there's 3 lanes or 2. That goes down to 2. It went down to 2. Well, you were the third one to the left, and that disappeared. So I'm kind of watching the road. This big semi, there's a concrete median right there. This big semi comes up and just like doesn't even slow down. Doesn't go right alongside of it. I didn't think she was gonna sideswipe me, but I was gonna go for it. I have your friends crazy. I went 2 weeks ago. It was crazy.
Is it?
That's a video camera, so
Are we gonna be looking that way?
no, not necessarily. Brianna, do you know where Joe went? Is he recording? Are we good to go?
Well, Joe's in his little office.
Okay.
She's got so much muscle.
All right, let's get started. We'll try to figure this microphone out. If I get too much feedback, we'll kill it, and then we'll just go acapella like Heidi suggests. There's a microphone over there as well that we can pass around if we need it. But thanks for being here. This is Jamie Roney and I have been spending the last few months trying to come up with new ideas. I appreciate the progressive work in trying to find ways that we can incorporate new things to our company as we move forward. In 23 years of being a real estate agent, I'm trying to put that hat on and go, what are some things, if I were just an agent here, what would I like to be part of? And so this is one of many different things that are in the making for our 2020 year. And I've been saying for the last few weeks that the 2020 calendar year starts now, right? I mean, sometime in the next couple of weeks. It's hard to get a listing or a buyer and get that deal done and closed by the end of the year, or at least it will be in the next few weeks or so. So in preparation for 2020, this is one of those events. So I wanted to recognize those that are here. It's kind of a different format, and so we wanted to set the chairs up differently because not many of our classes allow the opportunity to set up in this format. So for those that don't know everybody, a special thanks to Stacy Wisman, Maura Powers, Debbie Nyson, Linda Sechrist, and Heidi Nico. Thank you guys for being here. The format is really for this conversation to be amongst the 5 of you, the 6 of us. And I get it, I'm outnumbered in the girl power department, but it just happened to work out that way. But I wanted a chance to talk about what's happening in the luxury market and your thoughts towards what's happening, what we can do, and some of the ideas that go around this. And then we wanted to open up to be inclusive to our company so that those that are here could at least be here and listen and have some great takeaways from this. So I want a few items to be aware of. I mean, this is our luxury collection designation panel. And I've tried not to use the word panel because it's more of a roundtable discussion. But we have a number of people in our company that have this designation. And I'm going to name just a few of them real quick. We've got additional people that are in our company: Joan Pate, Peter Felis, Brett Butler, Gail Franson, Lori Gee, Rebecca Higgins, Spencer Jenke, Kevin Jensen, Bettina Katz, Bruce Kipp, Mike Kraus, Michael Rowe, Kim Dixon was planned to be on the panel today and couldn't make it. But there are a number of people that have that designation, but this was just a small sampling of people that I reached out to be part of this. And we're anticipating that we'll do this on a routine basis, maybe 3 times a year, and gather together, and it could be different panelists and different people, but a chance to talk about that market. But I want to start today with, we're going to go for 1 hour. I'm going to try to end on time. It might go 5 minutes over. Hope that's okay, but we'll try to get out of here as quickly as we can. A couple of things when it comes to the qualification, and these are just more some housekeeping items. For everybody, it's a reminder for us of how we earn this designation, and then also for those that are here, how they could earn it or qualify for it. So there's a couple of things, just a few outlines that will be on the screen. So the question is how does a property qualify for the luxury collection marketing efforts? It's the top 10% in the market. That number historically over the last little while has been about 750, 7.25. With the changes in the market, that number, after looking at it last night, has raised to 850 would be our benchmark. So properties that are 850 or more would start that qualification process. In Park City, it's about 2.75 million. And then the property must also look the part, right? There's nothing worse than marketing, as I put up there, a shack on a large parcel and saying it's a luxury property. It's probably far from luxury, even though it might qualify with a dollar amount. So it's important that the property qualify. And then second of all, the individual agent qualifications. And everybody got a little packet, and the very last page is a printout from the Resource Center that outlines those in more detail. And so they're for you to take home. But basically, 1 year minimum full-time experience, 3 qualifying closings within a 24-month period, and then you have to receive a few points. And those points are from a mix of either luxury-specific education and training, different service opportunities, or different performance or qualifications from your business into the Chin and Circle area. So, and then you submit an application. So you'll file an application, you'll outline the properties, and you'll outline your point system. You submit that to Jamie Roney, and that's who takes those applications, and we review those to get that qualification. So, and then just a quick outline of some of the benefits. So what's the benefit of doing this and being part of this? Certainly you have use to the Luxury Collection logo and design elements. You have Resource Center has a whole platform of online marketing stuff with the Luxury Collection logo. You have access to a handful of different publications you can see there. There's also an Institute of Luxury Marketing on the Resource Center that allows you additional learning. And then there are breakout sessions at the convention. And then most importantly, to be part of this group. And as we dive into more and more of those details. So that's really it on the qualification side. And just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of how this went. But again, the paper that's in your packet, the last page, has an outline of that. So moving forward in the discussion. Here's the first quote I would present. It says, the more you know about your customers, the more you can provide to them information that is increasingly useful, relevant, and persuasive. So I would ask us here from the discussion standpoint, not thinking about marketing and sales, but just thinking about your clients specifically. What do you know about them?
Know where they're employed or what their business is. Know a lot about their family, their interests. Those are things that are very important, and certainly in the luxury market. Do their children ride horses? Are their kids former ski racers? Some of those different things.
So very lifestyle driven.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other thoughts, Debbie?
Yeah, I just, Diane and Jamie have both brought this up, I think maybe had some training on this, but learning about how to communicate with your customers, learning like how should you present things to them? For instance, I have a customer right now who I know I need to give him printed materials. I can't send him a PDF and expect him to print it. So I deliver him, I just did some comps, and so I delivered it to him in a nice package and had everything printed out and had some notes written on it because I know that's how he wants to communicate.
Okay. So that's a good question. So one of my thoughts was, what do you provide to your clients that might be unique or different, that they might find useful? Not relating to marketing the home, but just more information. Do you provide anything on a routine basis that would help keep you in front of them, Linda?
A lot of times you may only have, I mean, you're lucky on some priced homes if you can get one showing a month, but they're expecting something every week and they want feedback, and you're giving feedback on a home that no one's calling on because they can't, I mean, such a few number can actually afford that home. You're not going to get a lot of showings. And so they're still expecting communication. And you have to figure out some way to communicate what you're doing behind the scenes so they don't think that you've forgotten about their listing. Now you've got to sign up, because the sign, many times they won't even let you put a sign up. So now you've got a home that you're trying, I mean, you can't put the directionals, it's not something someone's going to drive by and see. So you have to figure out how to communicate every single week. And they like different communications. They don't want just send me a report every week. And a lot of times they won't even look at it. And sometimes you'll find the very luxury people are the least technical because they're older. They're in my generation. And so they don't even do that kind of stuff, but very little. And so now they want phone calls. They don't want to hear from your assistant. They want to hear from you. And when you get feedback, when you show it, they want immediate feedback, and they don't understand why you can't get the feedback. They want it now. And they're very used to customer service all the time.
And they want you to be there.
And they are your only client.
So you can't send somebody from a team.
So true.
I mean, is that more complicated, Linda, to send somebody from your team to
Well,
do their showings?
you have to tell them that that's the benefit, is that there's always someone, but their house is special. You are the one that deal with their house.
You're the one who's
I'm
not
not-
doing your job.
If you send someone else, I had this thing happen this way, and someone did an open house, and he called me after and said, lovely, lovely person, but they are a rookie, I found out. And then proceeded to tell me every reason, that every question he'd asked, to find out that I had sent someone that hadn't had years of experience to open his special house. So, I mean, that's just one experience, and I'm sure there are hundreds
Yeah.
of stories, but
Oh, yeah, that's a really common one.
So, question, Stacy, for you. So if you have a property that is unique or uniquely priced and it's not getting showings, any thoughts on what you would communicate back to the seller? I mean, he obviously knows, he or she knows there's no showings. What do you tell those clients?
I think kind of like what Linda was saying, I mean, that constant communication, and that it might not be always through email, it's, you know, the phone call, it's giving them that constant one-on-one, you know, touches, whether it's once a week, a few times a week. And, you know, what I always have done is like telling them how I'm marketing the home. You know, so if I'm not getting the showings and don't have the feedback to give them, it's okay, you know, this is what I'm doing this week, this is my plan for next week, you know, this is our future plan, maybe on price reduction or whatever that is, if we aren't getting showings, you know, or bringing agents through or holding a broker open house, whatever it is that you're doing. And I think, you know, going back to what Linda says too, is it's about customer service. Luxury is full-on customer service, just like if you go shopping at Nordstrom's and, you know, they'll return anything without questions. And so that's the kind of, I think, same profile that they want with a luxury agent. And it's about the lifestyle. And I think adapting to that client, you know, with the lifestyle, adapting to who they are, you know, instead of being like, okay, this is me, that's them, you kind of have to be kind of their lifestyle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so as an agent, do you guys find maybe more, do you find that you need to be, entertain them more? I mean, our luxury clients, they need to be entertained in a lifestyle, or is it purely just business and I'm here to sell a home?
Oh, I don't know. Part of what I do is, I mean, I do things with clients of mine, like I'll have dinner with them, I do interact with them in more of a social setting than just a business setting, because they like it. Some people like it, not everybody likes it, but I think it also makes people feel that you're making time for them. And I think today, when someone makes me feel like they have time for me, I notice that, because I don't want to waste time. I don't want people wasting my time.
You know, luxury buyers and sellers are used to that concierge service of a 4 or 5 star property, and they expect that in any customer service aspect in anything that they're doing. It's the same service that they might provide in their business. So getting into that to shape the narrative of how you're approaching their listing, I think, is really key. You know, here at Berkshire Hathaway, I have actually achieved a couple of listings by preparing the listing proposal or the marketing proposal. And it's a really wonderful thing that's available to us through our documents in the back end. And essentially you can customize it, so you might not be running an ad in Robb Report or some other different publication that's just outside of the budget that you've set for the property, but presenting them with that, I've actually gotten a few listings by preparing that up front. Here's how I'm going to market your property, these are the publications that we're going to do, and these are the touches that you're going to get throughout the course of your listing.
Yeah, I would second that. I think having them, like Linda said, they are expecting something, and I give it to them ahead of time so they can kind of follow along, and then they feel like I'm delivering on what I said I was going to deliver. And apparently, a lot of people are doing that. That's the feedback I'm getting from my clients.
So have a checklist?
Yes.
So one of my new listings, it was a previous brokerage's listing for over a year. And so I listened. From day one, I listened to all the things that they were not happy about. And I knew that just the smallest level of service that I provide for any client would eradicate all of those concerns that they had. And already in 9 days of being on the market, we have quadrupled, we have 5 times the kind of exposure that they got in an entire year. So being able to communicate the kind of response, the marketing response and the clicks and the this and the that we've done has been a very, very positive experience for them. So it's great.
Great.
So listening is, I think that's the most important thing, whether it's a luxury client or any client. A lot of this stuff doesn't just apply to luxury clients. I think we're all of us at Berkshire Hathaway are good at providing a high level of customer service, but listening, like Heidi saying, I would assume from what you're saying, they weren't happy with the exposure they were getting before. So that's the objective now.
Sure.
So the question to them would be, well, how do you know what exposure you were getting? What kind of reporting can I give to you? How can I show you and give you examples of the exposure that you're getting? It's really important to know how to deliver what they're looking for and set their expectations.
Sure. Let's shift gears. I may just turn this off. But let's shift gears and go into, it's okay, let's shift gears and go into prospecting. Let's talk about prospecting for a minute. Here's just a quick, next screen there. So it says, not following up with your prospects is the same as filling up your bathtub without first putting a stopper in the drain. Maybe just a quick show of hands. Running down through a list of different ideas of marketing. If you do this on a consistent basis, just raise your hand. Social media, email campaigns, monthly newsletters, cold calling.
Oh.
Nope, not cold. Blogging, door knocking, video. Now, okay, so let's talk about, and then let's say video, not video for the home, video for yourself. Any of that? Linda? Okay. Maura? So how consistent are you in these campaigns? Debbie?
Social media, pretty consistent. Just, mine's mostly on Facebook, but I have certain people that we consistently communicate that way. And then we have other ways of communicating outside of that, but that's a connection that we have. And then email campaigns, and lots of times I send email blasts out, and I get clients that just say a quick note, wow, great new listing, or great idea, or, just make some little comment.
Yeah.
And we're just keeping the rapport going.
Linda, you have your hand?
Whenever I get slow, I pick up the phone. And I-
Is that often? No, I don't think that's
No.
often. No, I mean, not the
There are
phone, but
times,
slow, yeah.
I just always think, if I could spend one day a week and just pick up the phone and call the people I've done business with, I'd have more business than I ever knew what to do. I forget that quite often. And then occasionally I'll see someone, I think, oh wow, I haven't talked to them forever, why haven't I called them? And I don't call them with the solicitation, I just call and say, I haven't talked to you for a long time, thought I'd give you a call, how are you liking the house? And you can sometimes say, who do you know that might be selling their home? And I don't usually direct it right at them. And sometimes they give me a referral, sometimes they don't, but what you're doing is you're touching base with people that know you, and you're still saying, I remember you, I like you. It's really embarrassing to be at an open house and someone you've done business with 10 years ago comes in and says, hi, how are you, and gives you a hug, and you haven't the slightest clue who they are. If they tell me where they live, I remember their address. But I can't remember their name. I'm usually pretty good on faces, but truly, it's so important for them to know your voice.
I think as a new agent, and, there are some, in the room that are here, and thanks for being here, you guys. But, I think it can be daunting, certainly becoming a real estate agent, and it's like, well, how do I break into the luxury market if I don't have a blue-blooded pedigree? How do I do that? How do I connect? And it's really, again, it's shaping your narrative of who you are, what your brand is within this great brand that we're operating from. And, what is your story? What is the story that you are telling about you personally? What are the things that you like to do? And also, how are you shaping the narrative of the home? So you've now gotten that luxury listing, and now you're scared to death because what am I going to do? Tell the story. It's the story of the property. It's the story of the lifestyle. And then your marketing and everything comes into place as a result of that.
Yeah, I think sometimes, even in our own sales meetings, we hear too often that we have a home in Sandy that's a 5-bed, 5-bath. And it's like, wow, I'm still missing to know what this home really is, right? It just seems to be missing pieces. Would you agree? I mean, as opposed to telling a little more about, I always like hearing that it's got an oversized garage or a workshop or a private backyard or on the stream, the things that really are gonna make a difference.
Especially in light of the fact that Kevin said most Utahns stay in their home for 20 years the other day. I was like, wow, that really kind of changed my thought process a little bit. You really have to find something compelling to make somebody move around here.
Yeah.
I think it's giving them like that feeling instead of just saying it's 5 bedroom, 4 bath, 2-car garage. It's giving them the feeling, the story of the home for the lifestyle.
Yeah.
So where do you find, so when you're prospecting to find buyers and sellers for luxury properties, where are you looking? Is there an area you're looking? Is there something in your marketing or your prospecting that is catered more to a luxury client versus maybe more traditional client?
It's your networking, it's your personal networking. How are you involved in your community? What social groups are you involved in? You know, at one time there was a team up in Park City that, and I built my Park City business from zero. Knew a lot of people but built it from zero. And there was a team in Park City, and the other side of the team said, well, go talk to Heidi Ingham. She built a business from nothing, and go talk to her. And I said, you know what? I'd rather be out playing tennis or, you know, hiking or, you know, or skiing than I would be in prospecting. But that's the best prospecting, is what are the networks, you know, the networks where you meet people and, you know, have the ability to, you know, kind of sell your brand, you know, your brand. And maybe it's not, maybe your network isn't a luxury brand, but it's the friends and family they know that create that. So
it's the social side more. So if it's where you're eating, who you're being with, clubs you might be part of, community involvement, country club, tennis club, those types of things. I mean, would you guys agree that some of that social side is what helps create that relationship, Linda?
Well, I think that's perfect. I've always thought that's wonderful, but I'm just not a social person. I love to be with family, and I have so much that's pretty overwhelming. And frankly, if I have any extra time, I want to spend it with them. And I don't do just clubs and go to places and do things. I have no intention of doing that to meet people. I'll do it because I work hard, I call people. I don't intend to be on their level if they're in that upper class of homes. It doesn't bother me. I just do what I do, and I feel, I mean, I just don't feel the need to do that. But frankly, I see a lot of people that are very successful, and I think that each person does in their own way, and there's no prescription for this is how to do it. And I think if you do well with certain people, those are the people that you'll continue to do well with. And not everybody needs to be in the luxury market. I mean, it's difficult. Try listing a home that will have 2 showings in a year and give them communication every single week. And it's expensive.
Yeah.
And if you don't sell it, and after a year they say, nobody's going to really like you if you haven't sold their home. And you don't sell a $3 million home typically in a year, so you know there's going to be a time they're not going to be happy with you because you didn't get the job done. So you have to figure out, and you have to set their expectation that when it's in that price range, it probably won't sell in a year. So somehow you have to communicate up to that point, and they still like you enough to relist. And those are difficult times. Sometimes it's better to be the second agent or the third agent to get the home listed. So not everybody has the wherewithal financially to list a very expensive home and wait for the period of time for it to sell. I mean, that's the realistic.
You know, that's well said. I think that's a great takeaway, that I think sometimes we feel like those that are in that upper class of homes have a unique lifestyle and they socialize with those in the same, and they do in many situations, but it doesn't mean that you have to be in that pool to be able to handle their business. They're looking for personal, they're looking for professional, they're looking for the pieces that the truth is everybody has. So when we're marketing a home, is there anything unique or different that you do in marketing a luxury property versus maybe a more traditional property? Stacy?
Yeah, I mean, in the past I've done, more like video for luxury properties than, a non-luxury property.
Well, I think,
Because
yeah, the
highlight-
ads,
highlight
like the ad
marketing.
placements and stuff, you're gonna be doing more.
Cause
Spending
you're
more
targeting
money
a
on
specific
ads.
market,
Yeah.
so you need to know how to reach that market.
Yeah, yeah.
I've done little, or I've done, I'd call it a book of the home, a couple of times where I actually write a story about the home. It's a really high, so your marketing budget is relative to the, what the potential profit is. So, or commission is. So, and I think that clients expect that too, that you're gonna spend some money in the market, so. But it's, I think every single, whether it's 100,000 or 100, or 10 million, you've got a marketing plan that is specific to that property. And there's not like, there's not a prescription that goes across the board. It's, you've gotta figure out who's gonna buy that house. And going back to the story, there's nobody better at telling a story about a house than Linda.
That's for sure.
So in your marketing plan, when you're with a client taking a listing and giving that presentation, do you have a detailed list of what you are planning to do step by step, or things they can count on and consider?
So the letter that we have available to us, I actually send that out ahead of time. I send that out before I sit down to meet with them. Like, these are the ways in which I'm going to market your property. And it's a formal letter that Diane, that you can modify based on what the marketing plan is for that property. But, I have a really good example of a property where the referral fee back to the referring agent was so high that there wasn't a lot of profit in the listing. But I knew that it was a portfolio listing. It was a listing in which I could build on a particular category of business. And so I was willing to put the money into the marketing, even though it wasn't gonna necessarily come back to me. And what ended up coming back to me was 3 more transactions out of that, and the ability to create a new handle to the historic home business, which is something that's very important, a very important part of my business. So it was interesting. It's kind of like we talk a lot about events, and sometimes people will think, wow, I can't invite people to this event, or, I just don't have it in my budget to do that, and that's understandable, but the more people you are engaging in these opportunities and these events, the business does come back to you, so.
Maura, so anything, if you have a luxury property versus a traditional property, are there differences in that? Not differences, are there items that you do different or spend more money in, that maybe you wouldn't on a traditional property?
Yeah, I would say, upfront prep. Stacy and I spend a lot of time, thinking about the presentation, the physical presentation of the property, and we spend a lot of time individually and together with our sellers about creating, something that does look different than other properties in the market, something that makes someone afraid they're gonna lose the property. Because I think there's a lot of properties out there right now. It's not my specialty to be in the super luxury, like, my sweet spot has always been, well, right now, like $500,000 to maybe $1 million to $5 million, I don't sell a lot of properties above that. But I think that there are a lot of properties kicking around right now that people just are not educating the sellers about how to present a property. You see, you know, walk up to the front door and it's just, I mean, it's just filthy. I mean, you know, well, I guess we talked about that one in the sales meeting, but I think having your client see the property through the eyes of a consumer is really important, especially in managing expectations about how many showings are we gonna get, what is the feedback of the showings, and are we actually gonna sell the property? And I think that getting the property ready is a way to control your seller's expectations and outcome.
Okay, so there's a presentation piece to these properties, and the print and layout and photography and the way you're presenting it. And then you're also saying there's an element of its presentation itself, right?
Yeah.
Clean front door, you know, manicured lawn, whatever those are. Any consideration, maybe I'll pose this to Debbie, any thoughts to how you would present the property in a showing? Does that ever come up in these types of properties on how you're going to view, what are your thoughts?
Okay. I specifically talk to my clients about what are the top 3 features of this home that are gonna sell it. And if there's a view, it's usually the view. I'll give one example of a house I sold that had, it was beautifully updated, but it had a really killer pool area and a new addition that was a kind of a social area, like a family room. So when you walked in the front door, you didn't see that. So every time I showed it, I met them at the front door and I said, follow me. I took them right out to the money shot. And we did that first. We looked at all of that first. They fell in love. And now they're walking through the rest of the house and there are flaws. They don't even notice them because they have fallen in love with, this is where all the action's gonna happen. I've heard many builders of high-end homes say, if a piece of property has a view, you should be able to see it from the front door. And I found that to be true in many, many cases, and so I point that out.
So what you're saying though is, as well, is that if maybe the number one item that is gonna sell the home is the backyard, then get into the backyard first. And then maybe show them the home backwards, if you will, but not to feel like it's gotta be from the front door in, be unique in that presentation. Linda?
You know, it's really interesting. I always hate to be the one that shows people through the home because I'm afraid the other agent's going to feel like you're taking over my job. And a lot of times, if I feel like the agent is new, I do my best to try to give them the direction of the home because I feel like one of the biggest mistakes that beginning agents and maybe agents that haven't really done a lot of showing of buying with buyers, they don't do the floor plan correctly. You need to see the main floor and you need to see the big rooms first. So you see the kitchen and the family room. I've had so many agents that when I've opened the door, yeah, I don't need your help. Walk through the living room into the master bedroom. The staircase is the second staircase. Go up the second staircase, come back down, and then their feedback invariably will be, they didn't like the floor plan. They didn't know the floor plan.
So how do you guide that then? I mean, if you show up and you feel like this agent may not know the right way to present it.
Well,
how do
and
you
it's
coach
maybe not
that?
even the right way. A big home is really hard to show the floor plan.
It is.
And the whole idea is you wanna sell it, they wanna sell it, so you really should be on the same page. And it's just very hard when immediately you feel, and you can sense it, out of my way, I'm in charge here. And the whole idea is to sell the home.
Is to work together
Yes.
to sell the home.
And so typically, even when I go to a big home I haven't been, if someone is standing there, I don't mind saying, this is a home I haven't seen. How would you like us to see it? I mean, I do that all the time. And if I know the home, I'll say I've been through the home, it's fine. But a lot of people think, I've got 10 homes to show, we're gonna dash through them. Well, you wanna sell one of them.
Yeah, well,
That's-
I think
over the years, your team has been so wonderful. I've always loved showing your big listings because you have, I know this happens in Park City a lot where the listing agents will meet it, but in luxury homes in Salt Lake, it is not our culture to have the listing agent meet us. And your team has always gone the extra mile, and you've said, Maura, I'll have somebody there, your team is there, the lights are on, the listing is ready,
Yeah.
they're there if we need them, they're there, they'll step away if we don't. And it's a huge help to me as a buyer's agent to have someone that knows the property there. That makes me look good, it makes me look smart. I'm partnering with somebody that is at a higher level, they make the showing easy for my clients, and all the information we need is sitting in the kitchen if we should have a
There's
question.
never a swimming pool that looks good closed.
That's for sure.
You have to have the pools open if possible, you know, sometimes in the winter they can't. But having, you can, the chances of selling a dark home are probably 50% less.
So I got a text from an agent that just said, you know what, I really don't want you to be there. And I said, well, I thank you, I promise I'll get the house open and ready for you. And then I'll remove myself, I'll get you into the house and get you, get you going here, but then I'll remove myself. But she just said, you understand, don't you? You know, my clients just don't want you to be there. And I thought, well, my sellers really want me to be there. But a lot of times I'll say, if it's a newer agent, I'll say to them, tell me a little bit about your client, not because I want to, I want to take them over as a client. Tell me a little bit about your client so I can help you sell this house. And Debbie taught me that. It's like, hey, look, we're just trying to sell the house. I'm trying to sell it for my seller. You want to sell a house, one of the 10 houses, to your buyer. So tell me a little bit about them, because then in the walkthrough, I'll focus on that thing that is super important to them. They have a large family. Great, look at this great media room, look at this great,
And the neighborhood.
all of it, and the neighborhood, walkable streets, and, is it a relocating executive? Well, the private gated guarded community is super key, so we're gonna focus on that and different things, It's all about the view without the dues, without the HOA dues and different things, certain things that you can focus on if you know a little bit about that buyer.
Good stuff. Quick, so here's a statistic. I was looking at comparables the last when you pull properties that are over $850,000 in the Salt Lake Valley, there were 452 sales over the $850,000 mark. The
What
average
time?
price in 1 year, in the last year, the average age of those homes, so 10% of those homes were built in 2019, and only 10% of them are on the west side of I-15.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, 452 sales,
Yes.
$850,000 or more in the
Yeah.
last year. 10% of those sales are on the west side,
Oh.
and 10% of those were built this year, brand new homes.
Okay.
What's interesting though is the average age of those homes is over 32 years old. So they have an average age of 1987.
You know that, don't you?
So when you're selling homes that are in this luxury price point, my first reaction is many of them are probably dated. What are you seeing with your sellers, or even buyers, but what are you seeing with your clients with respect to the condition of these properties? Are they updated? Do you find that more often than not they're updating them first before selling? Are they selling them as is? What's your take? Maura?
Oh, I think the properties that are sitting a long time are not being updated. And it's expensive to update a big house, and it's time consuming. And if somebody wants to really move on, it's hard to get them to do it, but I think that's where the money is. I mean, if you really wanna sell your home, over the years, I've seen people go from being willing to do a lot of work in a home to just going, hey, like, I'm just too busy, I don't wanna do any work. And the other thing is people are spending a larger proportion of their income to get into the home they want now, so they want like all their expense in that mortgage payment, like they don't wanna buy $1.5 million home and put $1 million in it unless they are really super wealthy. And at a certain point, at that point, somebody's gonna build their own home. I mean, right, you see that? I think if people wanna sell their home, dated homes right now, even though the market is hot, dated homes are sitting and they will become like a noose around your neck.
Or they're
So you think, so your recommendation to, if you were to show up today to a listing that was built in the early 80s, and it was still the original kitchen, original master, original items, you would encourage them to remodel?
Unless they are willing to, price it, close enough that, I mean, not quite wholesale for a flipper, but so somebody could really, I mean, even just from that dollar per square foot that all the buyers are looking at, we're all looking at it and go, oh, wow, like, that's a deal. It's just a waste of time and money, for me. I don't know how other people feel, but that's how I feel about it.
Or I think those listings are very over personalized. That you go in and they've done the remodel work, but it's just over the top personal and it's not gonna be for everybody, and so people are just like, not into it.
That's where it comes into the pricing conversation, and that's a conversation that you're having as you're listing the property. Showing them what the competition looks like. It's interesting when you walk into a listing appointment or you've secured the listing and you're talking about price, you're talking about the market, and you ask them, well, what do you think your home, where's the range of the value of your home? And they give you a price, let's just say it's $1.5 million. Well, then you show them what the competition at $1.5 million looks like with a home that offers the similar amenities. And then they realize, oh my goodness, my house is so sorely dated with regards to the rest of what's on the market.
Hopefully
Or
they'll
they
realize
don't.
that.
That's what you're saying, there's a good chance.
Mine's different.
Mine's special.
When your clients are moving, then you're selling a home, it's good to show them some other properties that would be competition, but then
Absolutely.
to help them really understand
Always do.
where the
Even going out
competition is,
physically.
where they might be overpriced at, those kinds of things.
And the competition changes a lot, cause then it comes into the price, the price improvement. And I'm working on a very significant price improvement on, a $3 million listing and, 10% price improvement. And it's like, this is what the market looks like. And this is how we stack up. And as the pendings close, that sets the new price. And so we will have to address it another time.
Ongoing.
Yeah.
Let me move on a little bit from this. When you think about the luxury market 5 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, it's a long time. Where's the opportunity there?
Location. So we're talking about properties that are dated. If it's a dated house on Walker Lane or Cottonwood Lane, it's like Malibu. There's only so many beachfront houses. So that's where it's the opportunity, it's the upside in that market. For someone, I only wanted to live on Walker Lane, and that's where the opportunity for people, because incomes are gonna continue to go up. Hopefully our economy doesn't tank, but people are still going to be in the luxury market. And all of a sudden, the lower end market, people are in the luxury market because the pricing has gotten higher.
Yeah, they've moved to the luxury market as the market has moved, is what you're saying, right?
And I think in Salt Lake, personally, I think the luxury market is not always a high number, like $2 million. The luxury market really in Salt Lake, to me, is like 700,000 to $1 million in a general. Yes, there's a lot of the 1.5, 2 million, 3 million units, etc. relief, but in general, I feel like that's more of the luxury market right now.
Yeah, that's a good point, because you still have, I mean, you look at what's going on in the downtown market, and we have condos that are now pushing $800 a foot, which was unheard of 5 years ago. I mean, those have, I wouldn't say they've doubled, but there's been a 75% increase in that price per foot just in that market. And so sometimes we think the luxury market is this big number, but the reality is there's a lot of great luxury properties that sit under $1 million, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and we could maybe think of those as more like higher end properties because they're on expensive dirt as opposed to like a true luxury property. Like to me,
That
like
has
Linda's
pool
the
and
queen
tennis
of like the luxury properties, but a lot of expensive homes get sold that maybe aren't necessarily luxury, especially in the market area that I'm active in and Stacy's active in town, where they're not necessarily luxury properties in terms of the finishes, but the neighborhood, the dirt is just
I mean, you're in
driving
Harvard Yale.
driving it into that luxury category, even though the home itself may not be luxury.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Harvard Yale, I mean, it's like, what can you buy now for $800,000? Well, that's a pretty luxury number for the majority of people.
Yeah.
You know, but you have old tiny closets and old
And
kitchen
comparing
cabinets.
that to something in Cottonwood Heights at that same price level, or Sandy, I mean, huge difference in what luxury physically looks like.
And then it comes down to lifestyle.
Where you want to be.
Yeah.
You go 2 slides. Or actually, right there. So here's a thought. It says, in a crowded marketplace, fitting in is a failure. In a busy marketplace, not standing out is the same as being invisible. With 8,000 agents in our market, what are you doing? I'd love a thought from every one of you of what you are doing to help yourself stand out amongst 8,000 agents, and or what you're planning to do that could be on the horizon that you feel might be unique and opportunistic in your image or brand, if you're willing to share, of something that you see a place where you're looking at spending some effort in over the next few years to help yourself be more visible. Heidi, we start with you.
So it's defining your brand, it's calling out your narrative. What is your narrative? And creating that handle, if you will. And so how are you engaging your community? How are you engaging your buyers and sellers? You know, what does that look like? And for me, I do have a lot of involvement in different community things, and gratefully so, because then it allows me to let people know what I'm doing, and then they assign or they align with the fact that I'm a real estate agent, and then it seems that the conversation is heading in that direction. So for me, recently, the historic home business here in Salt Lake, of course, my Park City business is a lot different than the business that I do in Salt Lake, but the historic home market. I sold the JCPenney home many years ago on 5th Avenue in the Avenues. It was a very historic home. Then last year at this time, I sold the Castleton house, which was also a very historic home, if those of you who know these retail brands. And then this last spring, I sold the Sears, one of the original Sears houses. And they were all very turn of the century, historic homes. I serve on a historic board, and I'm also very involved with Preservation Utah, which used to be the old Heritage Foundation, and I'm very active in that, and it's really great to see that aspect of my business continue to grow.
So you just look for big box retailers that are no longer around. And see if they own real estate. No, I'm totally kidding.
But so I guess my point was I came from the fashion world. So I came from I was a buyer at Nordstrom for 13 years, And so it was just like, wow, I'm re-entering the retail world in my new role as a real estate.
Yeah, there's a market in the historic world and those stories that are being told.
Right. It's a story.
Appreciate that. Linda?
I don't know. I don't know. I suppose I'd really like to sit on the ocean.
So the future of Linda Sechrist is a little more me time.
Oh yeah, it has been for the last few years, actually. The future of me is to get everybody in my family healthy.
Yeah, good,
That's it.
good. Debbie?
I am gonna study what she did. And do that, cause I wanna sit on the ocean.
Okay.
But, you know, in general, I just try to do what I love doing, and I love the arts, and I'm involved with different arts in the community, so it's fun. And I think there's a whole lot to just being sincere and having a really, like good, solid relationships with people, and I mean, building your brand to me means having clients that know they can count on you, and having authentic relationships with people. So most of my business has really come from referrals, and I think that wherever you are is where you're gonna meet other people that are like you. And I found that one of the things I always tell my clients is, I'll do a great job for you. You can count on me. And usually when we're finished, they tell me, you did a great job. And they say, hey, if I ever know anybody that needs a realtor, you're the one. And they do it.
So it sounds like you're on the path that you're wanting to be on. It's just a matter of continuing to do it at a high level and professional.
I don't know that there's really like a plan other than just
Continuing the process.
it's fun.
Yeah. Maura, any thoughts?
Yeah, continue to show up for yourself. One of the things that I do is I get busy transacting and I kind of fall off the wagon with my marketing stuff. But I have found over the years that when I think about what works for me is one thing, and what feels good to me as a woman and a business owner is, like Debbie said, like I want to feel comfortable in my own skin about my business, and I thought long and hard about how I am in, like how I'm showing up for my clients and how they want to see me, and that informs a lot of what I do and how I want to be treated. But over the years, the most important thing is I have to feel authentic in my skin. And there's a lot of different ways to market yourself and market property, but at the end of the day, I think we all do better when we're doing what feels good in our own skin. We feel authentic. And there's a lot of different flavors, a lot of us out there, we're all different, and it's a beautiful thing, and find what feels true to you and stay there. This is powerful.
Stacey?
I think there's kind of, at least for me, two different aspects is, one, serving your clients, I mean, like everybody's kind of said, on a very genuine, authentic level, and, being very personable with them, not being the typical, salesperson. And, like when I, show property to, say, buyers of mine, and, I mean, I'll be completely honest with them with my opinions, and, be like, don't buy this house. Like, we'll find you a way better house than this, And, I mean, it's just kind of like, in my personal experience, if I go clothes shopping and I'm trying to close, and the salesperson's like, oh, that looks fabulous on you. And you're like, this looks horrible on you. What are you talking about, And so I think that's, being real with them, being true, and they respect that, and then they trust you. And I think, and I know they're gonna buy a property from me, and I want them to buy the right property. And, so they're happy, I'm happy, everything's great. They're not gonna be upset and call me in 5 months and say this was a piece of junk. So I think that's, one thing of our jobs is to be, in that kind of way on one level, but then on the whole other level is, okay, what are you doing for that, that's different. You have to give that customer service, but then you have this other job of, okay, how am I different than the next agent? Because there are so many agents out there that we're competing with. And there are a lot of young agents coming in, and they might not have the experience, but they have the up and coming, what's in, what's the trend, that
The
kind of stuff.
mojo.
And the mojo,
They're not beaten
we get
down,
kind of-
they still
we
have
get burnt
mojo.
out. Yeah. And so it's like, for example, a few years ago, I did a lot of different things, like, selling some new construction homes, and we were taking, models and having literally hair and makeup done in a framed house with a professional photographer, bringing in staging furniture in a unfinished framed home and shooting it and marketing it that way. That nobody was really doing, and then I kind of saw, okay, now other people are starting to do that, and they saw it, and it was very unique and very different. And it's kind of like, okay, always coming up with what's the next thing.
Creating a trend.
Creating a trend, and I don't want to give away like too many secrets, but, it's like.
Make your own secrets.
You're in a listing presentation and you're competing with 3 other agents or 2 other agents, well, what makes you stand out? Besides the customer service fact and your marketing, plan of this and that and what we all do, but, is, okay, who's the photographer? Do you have a special photographer for that property? Is that, photographer exclusive to you? How are you staging that home? Is it the stager that you see that stages every house you look at online that has all the same furniture and all the same bedding? How you're presenting that home. All those things that make us different, whether you're doing a certain video. And Laura and I have talked a lot about that. It's like, okay, now what are we gonna do? If we wanna do something, we're trying to think out of the box, doing something that is different because you start running out of ideas.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of also the fun part in being creative in that, and coming up with.
Good point. We're coming up on that hour mark, and I want to make sure we end on time. I know we got started just a little bit late. Last question I would have is, I know that Berkshire Hathaway as a company's got a fabulous brand, has a lot of different tools and in-house marketing and things that are specific to the luxury collection type homes. What else can we do as a company to help you sell these properties?
I gotta run, so I'll get back to you on that. Thanks,
Sounds good.
everybody.
Please, support, it's wonderful in this company that we support each other so well. Any opportunity you have to attend a broker open house, for one of our colleagues, it is so meaningful to the agent, to the listing agent, but also to the sellers. What I'll typically will come back from the seller will say, I cannot believe how supportive your Berkshire Hathaway agents were on our property. And I say, yeah, that's why we sell a lot of properties within our own organization, because our agents are so supportive of each other's business. So thank you for that, for those of you who've done that. But also, in the future, I've got some coming up, so thank you.
Thanks for the heads up, Heidi.
Linda, any thoughts? What can we do?
There's been one thing that I've been concerned about. We're bragging about every listing over 500 is on this international website. And I've been going to that, and I've been trying to watch to see, because we're telling people that. It's in all of the different languages. I don't know how many, I think it's 45 countries, 19 languages. I've not been able to prove that to myself.
Okay.
Would you find out, and I have called Park City to see if they could help me with it.
Yep.
I'd just like to be able to have that, so I could say, let me show you.
Same thing with Mansions Global, or any of the different syndicated sites that we work on. I think one of the training sessions that we could have is to be able for all of us to have our iPads or our laptops or whatever it is, or phones, however you're working and engaging your clients, your sellers, is to be able to just click right on there and say, look, here's how your property is on Mansions Global on Friday edition of Wall Street Journal or whatever it is, so that when you're there in the listing presentation, you're not fumbling, through your iPad and, you know, to try and show them, that, you know, that thing.
That's a good point. Debbie?
Yeah, well, I agree with those, and also, I think, you know, supporting each other at these open houses, I just think it'd be great if, we emphasize the importance of that part of our education. I've never been at a broker's that had better training and education, and it's not sales training, it's knowledge base, and how do I be, you know, how can I be the very best, most knowledgeable agent that I can? Well, part of that should be knowing the inventory. I think it's awesome to be in a car with buyers and be able to say, oh, I just saw that house, or, you know the neighborhoods, and I don't know that people understand how valuable that is. I mean, you have a chance to go see these homes, take it.
I think it would be really good to, instigate, even related to seasons, or a total Berkshire sort of luxury day, or,
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a lot we could do as a company that would provide, name recognition for Berkshire. Plus, if somebody would take the time to organize even areas or a fall fantasy and let people in homes they haven't had, or you could do it, you know, region center, but sort of work together. I've always been able to do that with agents in other companies,
Yeah.
you know, in a variety. But I think it would really be neat for Berkshire to start some of that themselves, because we certainly have a share of the market.
Like a luxury collection.
Property store. So that was a discussion that Jamie Roney and I had, over the last couple of months, and I know that Debbie and I have talked about this, is early on when we started this conversation, I said, hey, I'm wanting to have this panel discussion 3 times a year. The 3 times were 3 seasons, a spring, a summer, and a fall. And a point to where I really believe as a company, we would love to have this event sometime in the spring, where properties that qualify, and it would be more property specific for the qualification, that way it wouldn't exclude an agent in our company who ended up with $1 million listing, not being able to be part of that. But it would be a luxury collection tour, and it could have 40 homes on it. It would be Berkshire Hathaway exclusive, and we could have, is that more in line with
I
what we
think you
referred
could
to?
even do a month and do a different area per week. I mean, I think if you get too many,
Break it up into more
then it
regions.
saturates it and people can't see it all. But I honestly think if you'd have locations and just invite Berkshire, it won't be long and you'll be having all the other agents say, can I be a part of that?
Yeah, good point.
But if it's company sponsored, you could even start a campaign, you know, with a little, ad that, you know, some sort of a giveaway for that campaign for buyers that went through it. Well, obviously you're gonna have a lot of looky-loos and people have to know that, so you have to have good staff in the home. But it can be organized to be very, very, useful for the company and for the home.
I think we're committed, to implement that in the spring. I think it'll be hard to pull off before the weather
Right.
and this time of year with the holidays, but I
Well,
think for the
think
spring,
about
we would
this.
love to put that in.
Homes at Christmas look amazing, and you may even be able to tie it to a charity.
So maybe consider a holiday event. Okay?
A charity.
Yeah, good point. Stacy, I don't wanna leave you out of this conversation on this part. Anything else we can do as a company to help support you and our homes in this price range?
I think everything's been said, really. Wonderful ladies.
Okay.
And support's great, I love it. I like Linda's idea of this tour.
Well, let's continue that discussion and we'll try to make that quickly. Again, let me just say thank you to everybody that's been here. For those who came to visit, I mean, I hope this was beneficial. It really was an intent, I think, to have a little more of a intimate discussion on what's happening in this market. Appreciate you guys being here, and let's continue to be focused in these types of properties. So, thank you. Sorry. They'll just be there, a starting point, so.
I'm not like an easily experienced guy.
Are there similar forums like this for grants?
No, this is the first time we've done this forum. I've been trying to do this. We have a lot of different things coming, but nothing that is. But we could.
Okay, now, let me just say, as a brand new company,
Yeah.
this was fabulous. I'm serious. It couldn't take no less.
Yeah, of course.
This was so good. You know, am I going to go out and get a $2 million listing this year? Well, maybe, but not